Hey guys, it's Frozenballz here, and today we're going to be talking about leveling in Warframe. So, the Specters of the Real update has dropped, a few hotfixes have dropped here and there, and one of the biggest topics of discussion that I keep seeing over and over and over is the fact that Draco is dead. Like, there are so many doom threads on the forums about it, people complaining in relays, complaining in game, saying, I don't know where to level up my stuff, and, it's just one of those things which I like to point out that Draco was a symptom. It didn't start with Draco, it will not end with Draco. As long as XP farming is tied to kills and it's as long as that system exists, there will always be a place to go to level stuff up with. In this case, when Specters of the Real dropped, Draco was converted into a survival node instead of being an interception node. Alongside the star chart changes, a lot of planets had their levels adjusted as well accordingly. Sedna became the highest level planet now, with enemies level 30 plus, whereas Ceres level was reduced down. Earth is now like the starting planet, for example, and there are other changes like that. I would like to point out one thing, because a lot of people have been complaining about Draco being dead, this and that. With the new system of the void fishes, etc., you still have to farm for a relic. Draco is actually very good for farming for relics, so Draco isn't exactly dead in the same sense as you people keep thinking. So it would be prudent for you to keep in mind that you can always go to farm for relics in Draco. Anyway, onto the topic about leveling. I know a lot of people here are curious about, what spots you can go to level, what methods you can use to level, what frames you can use to level. So I've been doing a bit of testing here and there, and I've been, trying out different nodes, trying out different compositions, trying out different positioning and all that kind of stuff. And the two main methods which I'm currently using to level up my stuff is both in a team play and solo. The first one is a team play based map called Berehynia. It is on Sedna and it is an interception map. It uses the Conclave PvP map and is a fairly large sized map itself. Now, in terms of, farming efficiency, the farming efficiency on this map is nowhere near the same level as Draco because the map is much bigger, so spawns are spread out and they have to walk towards the kill zone and all that kind of stuff. But on average, you can still manage to get a good kill rate going. If you do a slow wave and you've got a booster running, you can still level up your gear fairly quick. So in my particular case, the composition which I decided to use was a Blind Mirage, an EV Trinity, and two people who are either providing buffs or leeching or whatever to level up their equipment. Now, I tried different compositions. I've tried Excal, I've tried Banshee, I've tried Siren, tried Mag. Mirage, even though she is now affected by line of sight on her blind, does a lot of damage, and that line of sight is controlled by where the prism is. So technically, you can throw the prism straight into the air and still kill everything on the map so long as you let it travel far enough and you have enough duration to let it travel far enough. And since the damage of prism was basically doubled, it actually does a lot of damage as well. Of course, 4 corrosive projection is just a given, and you're kind of expected to be running that if you're going to be fighting against the Grineer to begin with in order to, maximize your efficiency. The problem with frames like Excalibur or Mesa is the fact that they've got line of sight and the damage comes from the warframe itself. Now, because of that, positioning is key, and even with the best position, you still will be in a situation where it can sometimes be hard to kill the enemies that are capping the point behind a wall or something like that. So in a situation like that, I would say Excal is still the second one in the list right after Mirage, but you can kind of sort of use a Mesa as well. Banshee with her Soundquake can work, but you just have to be a bit careful about how you set up her build for her drain, because if you've got enough drain, you won't be able to maintain that shockwave and kill effectively. Now, I tried with Siren as well. Siren, while is not bad, her biggest issues is spreading her spores. Because the map is so big, spreading the spores is a much more daunting chore than anything else. Like, the enemies need to be in range of one enemy that has a spore for it to actually spread. So if you cast the spore on your mold and then, pop your mold again to, pop the spores to spread it, the enemies have to be in the range to begin with before the spores will spread. And that can be a bit annoying because if you've got like a rhythm going for it, and you're not hitting enemies, then you're just wasting energy and you're not actually killing anything. Of course, this can be countered by actually aiming at the enemy itself and popping the spores and just shooting them and killing them and spreading it like that. But this is about, a bit more of an efficient killing and farming method itself. The build for Mirage is pretty simple. You just go with maximum range, you go with some power strength and a bit of efficiency, etc. Although efficiency doesn't matter since you're going to be playing with an EV Trinity to begin with anyway. Siren, same thing. Excalibur, same thing. Max range, max power strength, and just spam until everything's dead. The other alternative build, which you can technically use, is for stealth exterminates. Now, stealth exterminates have existed for quite some time, ever since the whole stealth mechanic was actually improved, where you get like the 500% multiplier. But the problem was that it was a game mode that actually required players to play, and of course a lot of people tend to be lazy and all that kind of stuff. You know, they were like, I'd rather do Draco where I can level everything up at the same time and, you know, without having to do any of that kind of stuff. But with the changes that have come in, I personally think that stealth exterminates is actually a much better and reliable way of leveling up your weapons, which doesn't require a full score or another person to do it. With the changes introduced where even an unranked weapon will retain the mod capacity based on your mastery rank, it basically means it's much easier for you to mod a weapon up and still be useful at rank 0, which means if you put on something like a hush mod on a sniper rifle and punch through, and then you go to town on enemies and use that 500% multiplier, you can get a weapon from 0 to 30 in one game of exterminate. My current average of getting a weapon from 0 to 30 in a single game is about 10 to 15 minutes with an Evara, and that's with me stopping in between as well for a couple of minutes or so, and you know, not going fast. That's like my average speed, which is not that bad, and you're actively playing, and it's pretty fun, to be honest. You could technically use something like a Loki as well if you wanted to, but Evara is my preference for the simple reason that exterminates have a lot of arc traps. Exterminates also now have a lot of explosive barrels, and if you use your sleep arrow on an enemy, you can basically, you know, make them unalerted again, and that basically allows you to maintain your 500% multiplier chain. Since that's basically going to be your bread and butter for leveling up, you want to ensure that you don't end up losing that chain at all, or, you know, even if you do lose it, you lose it for the most minimal amount of time itself. There are a few other methods which you can use to level up, but those methods still need to be tested out. But, you know, this is just to get you guys going so you can, you know, not feel that you're in a situation where you can't get your equipment leveled up and all that kind of stuff. Remember, guys, Draco is not the be-all, end-all. It is a symptom of a much bigger issue itself. So if Draco dies, something else will take its place. This is just an example to show you that something else has taken its place already. I'm pretty sure there are other modes you can use as well to do the same kind of farming. One other thing I'd like to point out to you is this. I've been playing a lot of the normal nodes. I've been doing a lot of fisher farming, and I've been farming for ducats and all that kind of stuff. One thing I've noticed is it doesn't matter if you're going to Berehynia. It doesn't matter if you're doing a stealth exterminate. It doesn't matter if you're doing fisher farming or whatever. You can at this point play any single node on the map and still come out with a lot of XP itself from the actual game modes itself. So it's not so much you have to go to specific nodes like Draco or Berehynia or any other node like that to get your XP. You can actually play any mission on the star chart which has, like, say for example, a fisher or a high spawn rate or something like that, and kill enemies and still level up your equipment. Case in point, I did one fisher earlier today with an unranked cover and a weapon. The weapon at the end of the fisher and the mobile defense run went from level 0 to 26 with bonus XP. Bear in mind, I do use a booster, but still, that's a lot of XP for just you casually playing the game itself, which previously was not the issue itself. So, you know, the amount of spawns that come through fishers is actually beneficial for leveling up equipment, so long as you got one other gun which is good for killing, or you got someone on your team who's good for killing and you can use like their utility role for like farming traces or something or the other like that. So it does kind of sort of work in both scenarios itself, so you don't really have to panic about it. It's just interesting to point out that you don't have to go to a specific node anymore to farm for your XP. You can play any node on the map and still come out with, you know, leveling up your equipment, leveling up your gear itself, and it's still fairly fast. But of course, if you want to do a specific node, lazy mode style like we have been doing with Draco, Berehynia or stealth exterminates. Those are the two ones which I definitely will recommend if you want to check out how to level up. Again, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for being here. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure you leave a like, comment, and, you know, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.